Welcome to another edition of The Game Changer, the show that gives you all the trailblazers across the UK. And as usual, we have another special guest on the show. Anwar Uddin, a very familiar face, one of the first Asian footballers here in the UK, and now moved on to become one of the faces and, like I said, trailblazers, and that's what it's all about. And Anwar, welcome to the show.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Right, how you been?
Very well, can't complain.
You're a busy man.
Yes,
yeah. So listen, well, let's just crack on with it. Many will know your background. You, like I said, you were one of the first and few Asian footballers on the scene in the 90s. We're now 2021, and your role's totally evolved. You're trying to be an example, and you're trying to now push through more Asians. Not just in football, on the pitch, but more importantly off the pitch as well. But let's start at the beginning. For those that aren't aware of who you are and where your journey started, give them a bit of a flavour as to how and when it all started.
Yeah, for me, God, you make it sound like I'm very old. I still feel young at heart. But no, listen, in the early 90s, it started for me. I fell in love with football, watching Italia 90. You know, in the East End of London, when I was young, you either sort of got in trouble or played football. So I chose to play football and loved it and was very good at it. And played for school, district, county. And at the age of 12, mum and dad always used to see me leave the house with a ball and then turn up for dinner and go sleep. But then all of a sudden they had coaches from Manchester United, Arsenal, Spurs, Tottenham knocking on the door wanting to sign their son. So it all got very serious very quickly. But I decided to sign for West Ham because it was my local club. Yeah. And at the time, we just had the best players in the world. And as a young player, you want to be among the best. And I remember going in to train with the team and seeing Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, Glenn Johnson, Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard. As a 13-year-old, you think you're
So you were good. 13 when you first signed for West Ham?
Yeah, 13. And you go into that environment, and when you play at your school in your district, you know, you're the best. You're one of the best. It's quite easy. You go into that environment where you've got the best in the country. And I would argue that group of players then were probably the best in the world.
So you mentioned a few names. So I obviously, those that you're most famously known for, that team, 1999, the FA Youth winning team. You beat Coventry in the final. Yeah. Just drop us a few names. Who was involved in that?
Like I said, so we played in the FA Youth Cup final and we won 9-0 over 2 legs, right. Which, to be fair, is unheard of. Yeah. But having been there from the age of 13 to 18 and playing in that final, like Jermaine Defoe scored loads of goals in the final, went on to play for England. He's still playing now, incredibly. Joe Cole, I thought would be like a Lionel Messi. Yeah. Chelsea, England superstar. Michael Carrick, one of the most underrated players ever. That was the youth team, Glenn Johnson. Every single player has almost become a household name. Yeah. And to be honest, it's very similar to like Manchester United. You know, they had that class of 94, I think they were called, and they all went on to play in the first team. It's very similar, but with West Ham, because West Ham wasn't Manchester United, wasn't one of the biggest clubs in the country, they had to sell off all the assets, and everyone went on to do really well. But just going back to the age of 13, being around the best players in the world, that's exactly where I wanted to be. And it got very serious very quickly. And I felt like if I needed to pursue a career in this, it's something that I have to be dedicated to, work hard around and have my family support. And I got my head down and I did that. And I was there for 7 years at West Ham from the age of 13 to 20. Mm-hmm. And the year I was in the first team, I signed a 2-year pro contract and they finished 5th in the Premier League, which is great, but we're a young player coming through and you're on the bench travelling around the country waiting for Rio Ferdinand to have a bad game. It just never happened. So, you know, you go elsewhere to find your feet, to find your platform. And I had some great clubs. I moved to the Championship with Sheffield Wednesday, which was amazing. League 1 and 2 with Bristol Rovers. Spent 6 years at Dagenham and Redbridge, where we had loads of success, getting 2 promotions and going from the National League to League 1.
And that was where you really made your name, right?
Yeah, I think Dagenham, a lot of people...
That was an achievement, 1999 FA Youth Puff, but you really hit the scene in that with that Dagenham team.
I had a few bad injuries. So at West Ham, everyone knew me as a young prospect, as part of this group that were all going to be superstars. I had some really bad injuries, and a lot of people knew me because I was a young Bangladeshi playing for West Ham. And a young Bangladeshi playing anywhere was unheard of. So I had a name, but ultimately, a name is nothing. You want want to start playing. You want to start showing everyone what you can do. They've heard about you, but you want to watch me. Watch me. I'm the Asian player, yes, but watch me. Have a look at the kind of player I am. So I started to get that, when I was moving around, playing for Bristol Rovers, and had some really bad injuries. But as you said, when I went to Dagenham, I went there for 6 years, and I joined the club in the National League, which is step 5, if you like. 2 promotions. I was captain of the team, won the National League, won League 2 playoffs, ended up in League 1. And for those that don't know, Dagenham's average attendance was 1,500 to 2,000 fans. And we're going every week to play against Sheffield Wednesday, Charlton, Brighton, who are now in the Premier League. It's David and Goliath, but as the captain of a side, and suddenly I'm playing every week, I got the best out of myself. I wasn't injured, I was playing, I was happy, I was in London. And had 6 unbelievable years, and I decided to leave and go to Barnet just because of a change, because it's like, football's a short career and you want to experience different things. And then unfortunately, injury got me again, broke my ankle playing for Barnet when I was 31, and then went into non-league, and to be honest, never really got back to my best in terms of when you've had so many injuries along your career. But I have to say, look, a privilege to have so many games, over 300 games and experiences. Okay, and going back a step, I think people will be fascinated, but in terms of, we talk about support, how much, one of the biggest things I find speaking to people is that lack of support within not just the Asian scene, but everywhere. How important was that, and how difficult was it for the family? Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a little bit crazy because they were a little bit oblivious to football. They just let me play, and I was just sort of happy, and they didn't really see it as being something serious, like, is this going to be a career? But then when it did get serious, I was very lucky because I had an older sister who drove, so she drove me around everywhere. I had coaches and managers in the teams that I was at that realised my potential and realised that I had a family who didn't probably understand football like most other families, and they would pick me up, they would take me. But people need to realise that the sacrifice and the commitment to be a top-level football player nowadays is incredible. So my son is 12, and he's being asked to go into academies who train 4 times a week, sometimes at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 hours, and they could be an hour, 2 hours away. So, when I was growing up and playing, you had to be the best in London, the best in South East England. I think now, to be in the Premier League, you've got to be the best in the world. And you have to really start young. I went in at West Ham at 12, 13, which I think is quite late. Joe and other players who was at West Ham with me, they were there from the age of 8 years old, training 4 times a week. So the bar has risen. If you want to be the very best now, you have to compete with everyone around the world. Would you say it's that support infrastructure, that it is practically a full-time job right now? Listen, it's a full-time job, not just for your parents. I think what people underestimate is the impact it has on siblings, on parents, on their job. Even me, when I was taking my son to his academy training, I'm literally running out of work, running out of meetings to jump in my car to get there on time. And I think to myself, some people don't have a car. Some people don't have the understanding or the ability to miss an afternoon off work. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. So I think one key thing is about support. And if you can't access that through your family, I think it's important that clubs and friends realise that here is someone that has a potential to live their dream. Can we get round and help that individual? But it is a huge sacrifice. Okay. All right. So your football career kind of finishes like 2012, 2013, you're at Eastbourne Borough. You then go into management, and I'm looking down the list, and you started as assistant, straight into it at Barnet. How's that work? And where did that come from? The Barnet one was a bit of a crazy story. So I was the club captain, and again I was injured. I had a really bad injury, and Martin Allen, he came in, who's been at loads of clubs, really sort of well-known manager, managed at the highest level, and he asked me if I'd help him. Okay. So of course, I've done my coaching badges. I would like to coach and manage in the future. Of course, I'll help. So I started taking sessions, and I helped him. And then one morning he came in and said, "I'm going to Notts County. Are you coming?" And I was like, "Well, I can't because I've got a 2-year contract, and it's not something you just tell me in the morning." And literally, he walked up and left the office. Wow. And that was it. So we were bottom of the league with 2 months to go, and the manager's just left. So the chairman come in, obviously quite, confused, and I said, "Look, find another manager, but let me take over. Let me take charge. Let me, you know, I know the players. I can do this. So I took over, and he brought me in a colleague, Giuliano Graziola, who became the manager.
Right.
So I did it with him, and we stayed up on the last day of the season in the Football League. So, you know, when that incident happened when Martin Allen left, if you'd have said to me, you're going to stay in this division and you're going to, you know, lead that, I would have said no way. But that gave me a taste for coaching and management. To, you know, with no experience, to keep a team in League Two that was, you know, everyone was saying they're gone. I think just gave me that insight into something that I absolutely loved, and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do.
Okay, so you mentioned the word lead the team. Now, you were captain at Dagenham. You've been captain at most of the clubs you've ever been. For me, that says a lot about you. Leadership, how important is that from a coaching perspective? More importantly, obviously, managerial from a management perspective. But is that something that can be taught as a young kid growing up? Because we talking about it, the lack of leaders. I was watching Match of the Day the other night, and they were saying they're speaking about the same thing. This generation, the lack of leadership in most teams, Arsenal being your prime example. Is that something that can be taught, or is that something that's inert? Is that something that comes from within?
I think it's a combination of two. I had to learn myself, if I'm honest, for all the wrong reasons. So for me, the reason I became a leader, I think I've always been a leader. I've always been someone that wants to be in control, lead by example, help, support. But being a British Asian in this industry, I experienced a lot of negativity, a lot of terminology I didn't like, a lot of jokes, a lot of banter, a lot of the environments that I was around I didn't like because they weren't inclusive. You know, I'm someone from a Muslim Bangladeshi background. I'm different. You know, I want people to appreciate my difference and celebrate my difference. But for a long time, that wasn't the case. So the way I saw it was, I'm either going to come into these changing rooms and be the quiet little boy in a corner, or I'm going to stand up. And if someone says something wrong, I'm going to say something. And I'm going to tell them why. I want to be the individual that creates an environment so that if we have a Jewish player like we had at Dagenham, if we have a player from another part of the country, I want them to come into the changing room and feel comfortable. No racist jokes. No racist behaviour here. This is how we do it here. And if everyone can feel comfortable, I think you get 2, 3, 4, 5% out of each player. You do that across the whole team, like we did at Dagenham, you can win a league.
Fair point.
And for me, I just didn't want to be one of these players. And I know there's probably a lot of players that are watching this, or a lot of individuals in workplaces and in work environments where they can't be their true self because they feel that people don't take them seriously. They feel there's an element of, you know, strange behaviour towards them or the environment in which they're in. For me, if you want to get the best out of yourself anywhere, it's the environment. It is key. And I just got to a point at a young age where I thought, this is what I want to do. Why am I going to go into changing rooms and listen to this rubbish? I'm going to dictate how this changing room is going to be run. And it was one of those things where I'm having this conversation as a 20-year-old. Now, if I wasn't a British Asian, I wouldn't be having this conversation. But I think that changed me as an individual. And I think I've taken that throughout my life. And I think it's about learning that we're not all superstars. I played with Joe Cole, best football player I've ever seen. You know, he could score 5 and he could, you know, flick balls over people's heads and nutmeg them. And I could never do that. But I said to myself, okay, but what's my unique selling point? I can't do that, but I can be loud. I can communicate. I can lead. I can play with my heart. Those are the things I can do. So I made sure that I did them to the best of my ability. And I think that's what leadership is.
Okay, all right. And we talked about why and how you became that person or had to become that person. Them elements of discrimination, if you like, in the banter, in the changing room, have things really changed between when in the 90s when you were playing and now that you're a coach? Do you see change?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, let's face it, there's been a lot of progression in the changing rooms and in the football environment. I don't think through choice, but I think when I was playing, like I said, in the early 90s, a lot of players in this country were English, maybe Scottish, Irish, Welsh. You go into any Premier League dressing room now, you've got people from all over the world. And from over the world comes difference, faith, culture. And I think that's been an amazing thing for our football in this country because, you know, recently during Ramadan there was a break so that players could break their fast. Yeah. That would never have happened years ago.
Never.
And I think now we're having an appreciation for difference. And I think what that is doing is giving British Asians, British Muslims, British people who come from a different faith or background the opportunity to say, wow, the environment is changing, it is progressive, and I can now be my true self. And I think, if I'm honest, I don't think that was the case a while ago, but it didn't need to be though, because there were no Asian players. So why do we need to worry about what we're saying and what we're doing? Because there's none here. But it takes people like myself, people like yourself, to step into these roles, management, players, coaches, staff, so you're visible, so that when people look at you and they go, maybe I have to think about what I say, maybe I have to think about how I act, because now we're in an environment where it's extremely diverse. And for me, that's been something I've been proud of, is that, you know, I've been in the game as a player, coach, manager, on the governance side of things. I've seen it from every single angle. And I'm proud that I go to a game at Aldershot last year and there's an Asian referee. In fact, I was going to tweet after the game because he booked me. And I was going to tweet like, this is a sign of progress. I'm being booked by an Asian referee, an Asian coach. But I thought that probably isn't a good thing.
No, it's not. But you know what? And credit to you and all the other guys within football who are trying to make change. Because I think what you said is people are now thinking. For me, that's really important. Before you say something, there is a consequence to your actions. And if it's only that means that's a start. And I think the future is definitely bright, right, from what you see.
No, most definitely. I think you've got to be positive. But I do think people need to realise that the impact it has. Because we all talk about change. But I think sometimes we forget about some of the victims in this. Like I played with some kids growing up from East London, from the Asian community, that are better than me. They're better than me. But I had something they didn't have. I had leadership, character, and I had that, I don't care, this is what I'm going to do. But for a young kid, if you're being put into an environment where there is an element of racism, where you need the support, where you need to feel 100% comfortable, the easiest thing to do is just not go and train, not go on the trial. Do you know what, it's not for me. That's the easy thing to do. And I've seen so many people do that. And I think back, if they were playing today, and the environment was better, coaches, clubs had more of an understanding. And if a young Asian boy walks into the changing room, they'd be like, you know what, he's a bit different. Let's make sure he's okay. I think if we had that, we'd have more players from our community playing. Maybe not in the Premier League, but all over. And I think football's missed out on a generation of talent. And I don't think we can do that anymore.
Do you think that's happening now, though?
I think we're slowly starting to realise that there are pockets of communities that have superstars within them, and we need to tap into them.
So what are the clubs doing, though? You talked about if a player went into a club to make them recognise that he's different, or recognise that his values are different to the player next to him. Are they doing enough?
I don't think clubs are doing enough. I think the good clubs are, the best clubs are. If you look at my club, Aldershot, our two strikers are Muslim from North Africa that have been, you know, one of the boys is from the West London community. He's actually played for British Asian community clubs. And we're realising that there's so many players that have got the opportunity and potential to do so well. Our eyes are open to every single level, team, player, because, I mean, it helps that we don't have a big money. You know, like there's a team in our league, Wrexham, who are owned by Ryan Reynolds, who's a Hollywood actor, and they can have whatever they want. We have to go and find players and develop them and bring them through. But in terms of our mindset, we will look everywhere. And if we see potential, we'll give potential an opportunity. So I think now the game is now doing that. I don't think it has done for the last few years. And again, now this is something we can talk about for hours, but there's a lot of lazy stereotypes linked to us as an Asian community and Asian football players, which I've never understood. You know, Asian players they're this, they're that, they're this, they're that. And I always say to people, have you seen me play? Because all the stereotypes that you've seen about Asian players, trust me, none of them are linked to me, because I'll just kick you and I'll head it and I'm horrible. And I said, so if you've never played with an Asian player, if you've never seen an Asian player, but you're saying to me, they're this, they're that, why don't you base Asian players on me? Because I am an Asian player and you've played with me. And would you have me in your team? Oh, I'd have you all day long. Okay, well, the next time an Asian player knocks on your door, think of me. Yeah. Don't think of the negativity that you hear.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we started your coaching journey. We've talked about Barnet. You then went on to Malden and Tiptree. You had a bit of spell there, but then you took your first managerial role, and this is how we kind of met, and I got to know you at Sporting Bengal in 2015, 2016. At what stage did you then think, well, yeah, this is management? What were you thinking around that time, that 2 years leading up to it? Is this what were you hoping? What were your aspirations back then?
Yeah, my journey is really strange in that the way I try to sort of rationalise it is that I've got like two parallel careers. So when I retired, I felt really passionate about equality and change. I thought football and society needs to do more. So I started doing work with Kick It Out, the PFA, around positive change, around working with football governance. How can we make football better? How can we give more opportunities for Black, Asian, Jewish fans, players, coaches to get more in the game, embrace the game? Because I had issues. You know, my dad, I never used to love my dad coming to watch me because he'd come and I'd hear racist words, I'd hear little jokes and banter. I just told him not to come. And I'm thinking to myself, it's 2021. That is not something that a young person should be thinking. If you play football, go and play football. Not worry about if your dad's going to be okay. So I felt like I needed to do more around that. So I started volunteering for, you know, Show Racing and Red Card and started doing work on the governance side of things. But I wanted to coach and manage. That's my passion. That's my dream. Listen, when you've played football and you've scored goals, you've won trophies, and then all of a sudden it stops. It's a big void that needs to be filled. And one thing about me is people say to me, why'd you go to Sporting Bengal? They're the bottom of step 5. Like, why would you do that? You've got a good profile. For me, I think if you want to learn and develop, take any challenge. You know, take any challenge. And to be honest, when I went to Sporting Bengal, like I said, I met some amazing people, but I learned so much about myself as a manager, made mistakes, done things really well. But without that opportunity, if you get a job, it could be your first job, could be your last job. So if you've never had a little bit of an opportunity to learn, that job's your last job, that's it. So I wanted to help the community, I wanted to help the club. I had a fantastic year, it was great fun. And what I thought about when I was at Barnet, in charge, taking the sessions, picking a team, I've helped different clubs as an assistant. And at Sporting, I felt like, yeah, this is what I want to do. But I have to be careful because I can't do anything that's full on. Because I was at West Ham's academy as a coach and they wanted me to go full time. I had a few opportunities to do full time, but like I said, I had my other job. So I felt like part-time football would be good for me. And Sporting was a brilliant exercise.
Okay, so listen, we'll leave that there for now. We're going to go to a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what the future holds for Anwar, learn a bit about his role at the FSA, and more importantly, very recently, he's just been announced as not just any organisation, the Football Association. He's now one of the council members on there, and how that role is going to be instrumental moving forward for the likes of Anwar and in terms of making change happen. He's already done some amazing work, but let's learn more when we come back after the break. Welcome back. Well, let's continue our discussion with Anwar. He's still in the studio, and we've talked about his past, how the football journey began, and his kind of how he got involved in coaching, etc. But currently, Anwar, you've obviously moved on from Sporting Bengal. You went to Ware. You had a stint at Glebe. More recently, obviously, and still more to date, you're the assistant manager at Aldershot. How's that role going? Yeah,
no, amazing. It's a fantastic club, former Football League club. I think someone told me that 10 years ago today they beat like West Ham United in the league trophy. So it's a club of history. It's in the National League. It's a great fan base, so great level, and just a privilege to be there because they're full time and to work with players every single day at a great level. You know, you're talking about tens of thousands of fans. We've got Notts County away on Saturday. It's a big club, you know, and stadium's going to be full. I think that's what you do it for, you know, to be on the touchline and to get results. You know, we beat Notts County away last year, and you know, to do that in big stadiums with a good level of player, I think it's always where you want to be. You know, you work hard to get to a level like this, and like I said, a privilege to be here. But I just think it always gives you a thirst to then do more. do better, you know, and that's, you know, enjoying where I'm at, but really got a thirst for doing more.
All right, we'll talk a bit about that in a short while, but we were talking off air about your playing career, and we touched on the international. Did you ever get the call up from the Bangladesh national team? And you did.
Yes, I did.
Right, so tell us what happened there and why you never played.
It was a strange one, because obviously throughout my career, I'll be honest with you, I always felt that I could and would play for England. A lot of my teammates did, and I held on to that dream until I was about 23, I'd say, because you sort of have a realisation that maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But you know, always thought I'd enjoy playing international football, because what an experience that would be. And I did get a call up, but it was to the latter stages of my career. You know, I got a call when, would you want to come to the Maldives for a tournament? And yeah, I mean, it's something that excited me. But the problem we had at that time was the domestic season. It was a Christmas tournament around December, and I would miss 5 or 6 games. We were top of the league at Dagenham in the National League.
Wow.
And I went into my manager and I said, Gaffer, any chance I can have
holiday?
Any chance I can have 3 weeks off in the Maldives? He was like, what, you want on holiday? I said, no. I said, there's an international tournament. And I think it was a friendly tournament. I don't think it was an official tournament. And I think he was like, look, it's all good you going away for 3 weeks, but you're going to miss 7 games. We're top of the league. Yeah. And I was like, okay, understand. Because obviously it doesn't mirror, you know, if England are playing, the Premier League stops. But if some African nations are playing, or other countries, League 2, League 1, they carry on. So I didn't do that. And then obviously, you know, there were no other further opportunities, but it was something that I would always love to do.
Did you regret them not contacting you when you were at your peak, let's say 25, 26?
100%, because I felt like, you know, I'm playing in the Football League in England, a very, very good level of football, and I'm a captain of every single side I played for. I don't care what country it is, put me into any team and I'll improve it. Yeah. And I'll have not just an effect on the team, I'll have an effect on the place, how it's run, what it does. And I think people underestimate, when you look at world football, I think England, Spain, Italy, maybe France, these are the best leagues in the world. Yeah. Best managers, best coaches, best players. And I think I've played with world-class players, and you know, every time you play with someone or a new manager, you learn something, you pick things up. Yeah. And I think that's called experience. And you know, when you sign an experienced player at a club, they do things, they show you things, and it rubs off on the next generation. So I felt like I could have been a massive asset, 1, to the team, but then 2, for all the other players and the young players coming through. But like I said, it wasn't to be. I think there was, like I said, a few factors in that. 1, I was a lot older at the end of my career. I was very busy during my career. And it is a regret, because like I said, to say you've played international football is something you should be very, very proud of. And to you know, to play for your country, you know, I mean, everything I do is because of and through my father. So, you know, to play for the national team would have been the most amazing thing.
Well, that hasn't happened, and unfortunately, but you're now coaching, you're assistant manager at Aldershot, doing an amazing job. We talk about leadership and what you bring, the qualities you bring. How much of an eye do you keep on the international scene and the current Bangladesh national team?
Yes, I'm always interested, because obviously it's my country. You know what I mean? I go back quite often. I was back there with the FA 2 years ago, doing some coaching and working in the with a Rohingya coaching refugee camp, which was an amazing experience. Jamie Day's the manager, and I know Jamie very well. So Jamie was a coach here in England at teams that I know very well, and I've got amazing respect for him, and I think he's a great appointment for the national team, because he's someone that's had amazing experience and done very, very well at some of the clubs he's been at. Yep. And I'm hopeful that he can have an impact on the infrastructure. So yes, he can coach, yes, he can turn a team into a winning team, but I think him and his management team hopefully will have an effect on the infrastructure from the youth, in terms of the women, how it's run, the environment, how to professionalise that. Because I think sometimes countries need outside influence. You know, if you get a good coach from England or France, what do you do in England that we can bring here in the national team? Right. What makes England teams successful? Why are England teams the best? Can we implement some of these practices in the national team? And you know, when Jamie got the job, I was thrilled, because obviously it's proud for me, because I know someone who's going to manage in my country. And I thought that, yeah, this is a progressive step.
Yeah.
Because I think this is where the country needs to go. And I'm not being disrespectful to domestic coaches at all, because I think it's important that within Bangladesh they develop their own coaches so that we can have someone from our own country managing our team. But sometimes when you're learning, it's always good to get outside influences. 100%. And these international jobs, I mean, England had, 2 managers who were not English. Ideally, we'd have English managers, but sometimes, Sven-Goran Eriksson, Fabio Capello, they're unbelievable at what they do.
Yeah.
So if they can come in and help us,
yeah.
I think we have to be grateful for that. And I'm sure Jamie J is doing a great job, in terms of creating that infrastructure and giving the country a little bit of an insight into what we do in England. And the thing is, people won't realise, but someone like Jamie going into Bangladesh, if he spends 2, 3, 4 years work there, that will have an effect for 10 years. It's not sometimes about the results now.
Yeah.
Winning tournaments. What you do is you start to plant seeds.
Yeah.
You start to build a foundation, and in 4 years, 10 years, that's when you see, the success of what the work you're trying to do. So always looking out for results and hoping they do well and progress. And I think it's a country that, to be honest, is always going to go in the right direction.
Good stuff. Well, listen, again, being in the football scene myself and watching your development and your progress over the last 5 to 10 years, I get a lot of calls and I got a lot of messages. Will Anwar ever consider going to Bangladesh? And like I said, you've mentioned it. I speak to Jamie myself, doing a fantastic job. I think no one can discredit what he's done and what he's doing, but at some stage there's going to be change. Is that something you feel is an opportunity or a challenge that you would like to take?
Yeah, I've never really said no to a challenge. As you know, I mean, I get calls all the time. I've been asked to manage countries before. With my day job, I go around the world coaching, and I've actually been asked if I'd help countries. And I'm honoured by those, suggestions. But I've just completed my E licence. I'm going to start my pro licence. And I think once I've done my pro licence, I'm as qualified as you can be.
Yeah.
I have every single qualification in terms of I'm currently the highest qualified coach you can be. If I do my pro licence, I can actively apply for a job in the Premier League.
So tell those people that I wasn't aware. So we were having this chat before we come in, and everybody's aware of the A licence. You need to have that to manage at the highest level.
Yeah.
Now, to have a pro licence is like, it's the elite. Literally, we're talking 1 to 5% may have that pro licence in the whole game, right? To manage in the Premier League, you have to have a pro licence, and you're on the cusp of doing it.
So managing the Premier League, if I know they don't come out, but if a job advert came out that Arsenal are looking for a manager, one of the requirements would be a pro licence. So an A licence is the highest coaching qualification you can have. I have an A licence, but I'm always looking to develop, and with my links to the FA and governance and wanting to learn, I'd love to do the pro licence, and it's something I'm going to consider. It is a commitment, but I think once you do the pro licence, you're then able to apply for jobs internationally at the highest level. And I think, I'm not saying that they would come to me, but I think you have to be prepared. If you can do as much as you can to develop you as a human being, you as a manager, you as a coach, you don't want to be in an opportunity where someone says, would you be interested in this job? And you say, I'm not qualified. I want to be in a position where I say, well, I'm qualified, I have the experience. So I've done all the things I've done. I'm now ready. If it comes or it doesn't, who knows? That's life. But like I said, at the moment, I'm coaching at a very, very good level, at a very, very good club. So I want to continue to learn. And I think, like anything, as you develop and you learn more opportunities come. But if you're going to manage a country, if you're going to manage a Premier League club, you need a pro licence. So that's kind of the route I'm going to take.
Good stuff. So there you go. You heard it here. Those that are messaging me, those that are asking the question, does Anwar want the Bangladesh national team job? Not right now, but at some stage, if the opportunity would ever come about, he'd genuinely be interested. All right, so that's that one dealt with. Let's get back to your day job. All right, FSA, Football Supporters Federation and Association, should I say. Just give us a bit of a flavour as to how that happened, why that happened, and what the job entails. Yeah,
so like I said, I've been coaching and managing. That's been my life. But like I said, I've been disappointed with a lot of aspects of football and society in this country. And a story you know well is Bradford. So I played at Bradford for 6 years in a row. And in Bradford, the stadium, probably on average, you're looking at 13 to 14,000 fans every single match day at home. Surrounding the stadium, huge Bangladeshi community. When I played there every single year, you'd come on the coach, you come into the community, and it's, you know, it's like, it's the Bangladeshi community. And you go into the stadium, you don't see one Asian face. And literally, when I used to play there, the ball would go out for a throw or a corner, and I would literally look around and see if I could see an Asian face. Because one thing about my career that I used to love is that I'd go all around the country. I remember playing at places like Burnley, Scunthorpe, and I'd be warming up or warming down, and then someone would come from the stand and go, bye, Anwar bye. And I'm like, there's a young Asian boy saying, listen, I've never been here before, but I heard you were playing. I've just paid £15. I wanted to see you. Do you know how much that makes you, how proud that makes you feel? But when I went to Bradford, I never saw that. And I always found that quite incredible, because parts of London, parts of Burnley, parts of Birmingham, huge Asian populations, no one goes in the stadium. So I spoke to the Football Supporters Association and Kick It Out. I said, there was a role that came up. I took the role and I started this campaign. I lead on Fans for Diversity, and it's all about getting people to watch live football. But more specifically, underrepresented communities. Why don't the Asian community watch football? Why do most of the Asian community support Liverpool Man United? Now I know the answer, because my dad came here in the 60s and did not want to go and watch live football, because every time he went near a stadium on a match day, violence, racism. So his relationship with football was built on Match of the Day. The team that was successful at that time was Liverpool. He supports Liverpool. So when I was growing up, he's like, right, you're going to support Liverpool. I'm like, I don't live anywhere near Liverpool. Why am I going to support Liverpool? I want to go and support a team that I'm local, so I can go and watch. But that's the Asian community, and a lot of people go, oh, you know, why don't they come in? Why don't we have the local community watching Bradford? Like I said, because our relationship inherently is with the Liverpools, the Arsenals, and a lot of that is TV, and a lot of that's not, I'm generalising, but you get the picture. So I work with football to try and make it open for everyone, to say, come and watch football here, and if you watch football in our stadium, it's going to be a good environment. There's no racism, there's no homophobia, and that's a big piece of work, because I work with every club from the Premier League all the way down to step 5. We're talking about 100 clubs. How can we make it more inclusive? How can we get more people watching football? How can we make sure that there's not online abuse that fans give players? Huge role, but I have to say we've done amazing work. Literally responsible for thousands of people that now watch football. So going back to Bradford, obviously went and met the community, met people like Humayun, as you know, really well. We started the Bangla Bantams, started going to games once a month, once every week. And now you've got the Asian community standing up singing songs
having
on the court.
Samosas at half time,
so
brilliant.
And to be fair, I use that case study because it's a snapshot of what can be achieved if you just bring people together. And
on the back of that, you've got so many now. It started with Bangla Bantams, and now you've got, how many have you got? I mean,
we've got literally probably about 80 new supporter groups from underrepresented communities. So we're talking like the Punjabi Rams, Blues for All in Birmingham. We've got fan groups from the LGBTQ plus community. We've got disabled fan groups. We've got fan groups from the elder generation.
You work in Wales as well?
We go
all over the place.
All over the place. And that's what I mean. Like I said, I love my football, I love my coaching, but this is something I'm really passionate about. And the Fans for Diversity campaign has genuinely changed the face of football. Like I said, I use Bradford. So if I was to go and play Bradford now, when I take a corner, the Asian community, there's people like Humayun giving me abuse. 6 years ago, that didn't happen. And I think it's just about bringing people together, because like we talk about the lack of Asians playing football. Okay, but that's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to get a magic wand and go, right, let's wave this wand and now there's going to be loads of Asians playing football. We have to get our elders involved. Show them why football is a great thing. Like, come and watch a game. And when you come watch a game at Bradford and you've seen 14,000 people singing, when your niece or nephew says, I want to play, you'll go, you want to go and play in that? You want everyone to sing your name? Do it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that. We're relying on the next generation of kids to go, come on, do it. Go and play for West Ham. When actually, as a community, we all need to do more. We all need to understand football, why it is what it is, what's needed to get to where it is. And like I said, I'm just proud that I can be in a position to work with clubs all over the country and do that. And like I said, I've developed some amazing relationships. You know, I have club owners and CEOs talking to me about their long-term strategy, how can we help, what we can do. So to have retired and literally, one day waking up saying, I'm not a football player anymore, what do I do? 6 years later, it's been hard work, but I'm busy, but I'm proud.
Kind of, you've set yourself a little niche. You're doing your thing.
Yeah.
You've kind of, and the work you're doing it's out there to be seen, and the differences it's made. Having, like you said, Asian faces in stadiums up and down the UK. You've got we talk about Liverpool. You've created
Deshi Reds,
right? That's it, yeah. And they're in the stands. They're singing at Anfield.
Yeah.
Historically we'd be at home watching Match of the Day, watching Sky, but now they're actually in stadiums, and it's a great job. Well done. But moving on from that, obviously you touched on you want to make change, and progressively you're setting yourself up. With every challenge comes a new opportunity. Very recently it was announced, obviously, there was a role going with the FA, and you are the first Asian representative on the FA. Tell us a bit about what panel
so
is this?
it's the FA National Council.
So
obviously a Bangladeshi origin, current coach, ex-player, and I'm on the council. So the FA Council, for those that don't know, football was created by the FA in this country 150 years ago, where a group of gentlemen got around a table and said, let's create a game, let's create an organised structure so that everyone can play safely. Mm-hmm. It can be organised, we can do competitions. That group of people are the council that run the football in this country, that run the FA.
Okay.
And there was an opportunity where 7 positions were made available. And I thought to myself, everyone talks about visibility, representation, and being part of that key decision-making process. And to be honest, no one can just do that because it's like these are roles where the people that are doing this have got amazing history, they've got an amazing background, and they're on the council because, they've got a keen interest in refereeing or in coaching. And if there's a decision to be made, they can give a valuable opinion. I think we should do this, we should look at that. So the opportunity came up and someone sent it to me and said, do you think you could do this? And I said to myself, I've got a unique journey, and actually, in terms of what I've learned, I've played, I've coached, I've managed, I've kind of done a lot of things, and I've done it from a unique perspective, being a British Asian in football. So I felt like I could add diversity of thought to the National Council. If there's a conversation about anything, I think I can give you a different perspective. I can give you a perspective of someone who's active in the game, someone who's had a few experiences. So I applied, and thankfully I got the role. So it's amazing, and to be involved at the FA at this level, for me, is an absolute privilege because, like I said, it is the group that make key decisions on the game.
What do you think are the biggest decisions they have moving forward? If there was a couple of things that you could pick out right now, what would it be?
Well, a key thing, I think 5 years ago, there was a press conference and they talked about, right, what is the FA? What are our objectives? What do we want to do? And a key thing was to improve the national team. And that was we were underperforming, if you like, considering the players that we had. And they said, like, right, St George's Park, we're going to really develop our coaching strategy. We want to create a team that can potentially win a major competition in 2020, 2021. And we got a penalty kick away. So, but for me, yes, that's the footballing side. I think adding diversity to the structures of football, coaching, managers, players, women's football. I think there's so many key areas of the game that need to be developed, need to be looked at. Investment, where does it go? Grassroots. But for me, the most exciting thing is, a lot of the roles I've done, I've spoke about being British Asian, talking about equality and diversity, which I'm passionate about. But the thing that excites me about the FA role is that it's football. So yes, I'm British Asian, but I'm talking to you about refereeing. We're talking about the structure of the pyramid. We're talking about the England national team. We're talking about these decisions. These are football decisions. These are key decisions. Do we host a World Cup? Do we change the name of a football club? Do we restructure the pyramid? What happens if someone does this? For me, I think it's a privilege to have a British Bangladeshi who's come from the East End of London to be around the table and actually just having an input in these key decisions in our game. And I'm thankful for the FA for just sort of, everyone talks about everyone's traditional and we're not moving forward. But
Yeah.
I think that's a sign of the times. I think the FA have said, okay, how can we be different? So the FA Council have existed for 100 years. Similar people, people who've been on there for a long time. Let's bring some fresh perspective, and I'm just absolutely privileged that I can be one of the individuals that can join that. And it's a minimum of a 3-year term,
Yep.
a maximum of a 9-year term. But it's exciting. I mean, on Sunday I'll be in the Royal Box watching Andorra versus England. So, like I said, so for me, like it's just, and being among those people, I want to help, I want to contribute. If you're sitting next to someone who's having an issue at a certain county FA, can I help? What can we do?
Okay.
And I think, to be fair, to get to that level, I think is great, but it's difficult to do. It's hard work, and I think sometimes people don't realise that, you don't get jobs in football because you are who you are or you've done this. You get jobs in football because you've consistently working hard, and you build up an experience to be able to contribute. So, exciting.
Good stuff. All right, brilliant. Well, listen, we've literally got a couple of minutes left for the show. Final bit of advice for a 13-year-old who's out there, or a coach, young coach, aspiring coach who wants to get to where you are, or is looking to be a professional footballer. 3 top tips for them before we wrap up.
The first one, I think, is a no-brainer. I think it's about discipline, hard work, and making sure you do all the right things. So if you're doing an exercise and you've got to run to the cone and back, go to the cone and back. Don't half go to the cone. Don't cheat, because ultimately you get nowhere in life if you cut corners.
Yeah.
Do all the work. In fact, do more of the work, because if you don't, unfortunately, it's such a hard elite level. There's other people that will, and that's the level. So work as hard as you can. A key thing for me is about network. A key thing for me, and it's not just about a 13-year-old, because how can a 13-year-old network? But if your son's playing football, maybe find out if there's people in your family or people at work, friends, that could help you in his development or her development. Do you know anyone? Email someone, message someone on Twitter or Instagram. I'm a coach. Have you got any tips? I'd like to come and watch. At the start of my journey, I've talked about a lot of the highs. There were a lot of lows where I wasn't sure what I was going to do, where I would go. I would just email people. I'd ring people I've met before or I've managed with before. Can I come and watch? Can I help you? And sometimes people say, how do you do that? How can you ring someone up and ask for help? Because I know where I want to get to.
Yeah.
I just need, it's the process.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about building up a network and not being shy to ask for help or guidance, because I think a lot of people do. And I think when we're talking about something that you're dreaming about doing, are you prepared to do everything that's needed to do that? And I think one of those things is being able to talk and ask for help. So working hard, asking for help. And I think it's about character. It's the key thing for me. Be prepared to fail.
Yeah.
My whole career, everyone was telling me, you're not going to be a football player because you're Asian. You're not going to do this because of racism. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to fail anyway. I might as well have fun. And if I fail, I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall forward. It's something, I want to get to where I want to be. And if I fail, who cares? I'm just going to get up and crack on and do it again. So it's not always plain sailing. And to be honest, with football, there's probably more lows than there are highs. So be prepared to fail, and it's how you react, which is all about your character. And failure isn't just like being told to leave. Failure could be an argument with someone, a bad game. It's how you react from that. Even in the game, you make mistakes. How you react and your character is key. So those 3 things.
Brilliant. All right. Anwar, thank you very much. It's been insightful as always. Guys, we are out of time for today's episode of The Game Changer. We'll be available on all networks, so Facebook, your Twitter. Keep an eye out for the links on YouTube as well. But give us your feedback. See what you think. We need more input. We need more, ideas of how we can improve this show. But to everybody that's watching, thank you for watching. I've been Imrul Gazi. Until next time, see you soon.